All right, and welcome into the Fantasy Pros Fantasy Football Podcast. It's the Week 2 Sunday recap show coming to you live right here on twitch.tv/fantasypros. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock, and tonight we have quite the cast of characters here alongside me, including the very cool-looking gentleman to my right. He's an orthopedic sports surgeon and the founder of Sports Meds Analytics, saving lives and fantasy lineups on the daily. He's Dr. Deepak Chona. Deepak, busy day on your side of the fence with at least one injury to a big name player. How are you this afternoon as the slate's starting to come to an end?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing well as far as injuries go. Big injuries, but not as many as normal. So optimistic there. And Texans didn't play, so stress-free.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it, man. Monday night might not be the same thing for you, but we'll relish in an easy Sunday night for you. We're also joined by my co-host, who I hope is having a better Sunday than Saturday after Clemson Tigers did drop a big one to Georgia Tech. She's Tera Roberts. Tera, great to have you alongside me. How are you as week 2 rounds out here?
I'm feeling good. I've got amnesia from Saturday. It didn't happen. I've just wiped it from my memory, and I'm focusing on the Packers being my happy place. A good Sunday here. We had fun. Fun quarterback stuff, fun Daniel Jones stuff. So this was a good, exciting week here.
It absolutely was. Today's show does look like this. We'll break down the most notable injuries with Dr. Deepak, and then we'll recap all 11 games from the early and afternoon slate, letting you know the biggest fantasy football risers and fallers along the way. And before we jump in, shout out to everyone who's rocking and rolling with us on twitch.tv/fantasypros. Please be sure to follow and subscribe for our full selection of live interactive content. And if you're with us on the playback, either on YouTube or the audio feed, thank you. We see you. We appreciate you. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this type of content. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new as well. And let's go ahead and jump into those injuries here, Deepak. Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, he exited early with a toe injury against the Jacksonville Jaguars. What are we looking at here with the former number 1 overall pick, who does have a lengthy injury history at this point?
Yeah, so he came out of the locker room in a boot using crutches, and they reported they're thinking several weeks here. Now, the average timeline on a turf toe is going to be about 4 weeks. It's important for a quarterback because you're in pocket mobility, you're on your toes, and when you're driving off of that foot, you're also on your toe. So with that in mind, we would anticipate kind of a best case scenario being 2 to 3 weeks. The one good thing here is that Joe Burrow most likely wouldn't need surgery. It's relatively uncommon. The data suggests around 15% of in-season turf toes end up needing in-season surgery. So good chance he returns, but may not be instant.
Okay, Tera, in the meantime, if we do have the backup quarterback, Jake Browning, rolling, how much are we downgrading the Bengals pass catchers, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, without Joe Burrow?
Jamar Chase, no, we got to start him no matter what. T. Higgins goes into more of a flex range, but at the end of the day, I think there's still going to be a significant amount of volume. I'm oddly enough more concerned about Chase Brown. If those goal line opportunities are not getting there, if we're not getting those checkdowns to him, that's where my concern comes in.
Yeah, it's a great point because that Bengals defense is so subpar that there should be a lot of volume playing from behind with the Bengals pass catchers. Let's move forward to New York Jets quarterback Justin Fields. He entered the concussion protocol today after leaving the game against the Buffalo Bills. Deepak, can you remind us what the league's concussion protocol is currently and when we might see Fields back in action?
Yeah, so essentially he has to go through a series of steps to ramp up his activity level and clear each of those days without a setback. To smoothly clear concussion protocol averages about 6 to 7 days. So it's right on that 1 week borderline. So with that in mind, there's a good chance he plays this coming week, but it definitely is not a lock.
Tera, if it isn't Justin Fields out there and it is the services of Tyrod Taylor, are you trusting Garrett Wilson in week 3 in your fantasy lineups?
A little bit of question marks there. It's kind of like we saw today. We saw volume to him. He's the wide receiver 1. Nobody else is getting targets, but how productive can he be with those targets? He goes more into a flex range with a little bit of upside in PPR. So yeah, there's more of a downgrade and concern there with them.
Okay, less of an injury that we need to discuss for today's slate, but more about those managers who might have Las Vegas tight end Brock Bowers. He's questionable for Monday Night Football with a knee injury. Deepak, if you were a betting man, I know you might be, what would be your odds that Bowers plays tomorrow?
Yeah, so the data says it's at 55% based on his injury and his practice progression. He logged a limited practice on Saturday. Now, I would think based on if you factor the optimism of the comments that it might be a little bit higher than that as well. I don't think you can bank on Pete Carroll's optimism, and Coach Speak has him ranked around a 70% accuracy there. So with that in mind, I do lean him playing, I would say, probably in the 60 to 2/3 range.
Tara, obviously, if Brock Bowers is out there, we have to start him, just given the draft capital we used on him. Is there a safety valve, like a plug and play in case of emergency option, maybe in Michael Mayer, who at one point was a second-round NFL draft pick as well?
Yeah, for sure. And I've got Brock Bowers on one team. I've got Mayer as a backup on that team. It's an easy plug and play there. You do have to be prepped and ready to go and have the ability to make that adjustment. You have to have the roster spot. Remember that. So if you're kind of lingering here in the nights and trying to figure stuff out, remember if you're going to have to pick them up, you got to have that roster spot at the last minute.
100%. Let's move back to the quarterback position here, where San Francisco 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy, he was out for today. He's going to be out at least until week 3 with that toe injury. Deepak, can you explain a little bit further what this injury is and what your timeline is? Because this is something that we didn't have clarity or even knowledge about until after last week's recap show.
Yeah, so Brock Purdy, this one didn't come out till much later, but essentially he had his toe kind of pointed downwards, and then the defender's body weight came on top of it. So it injures the ligaments on the bottom of the toe. Again, really important on push off. One important thing for a quarterback, or the difference between the two that we're seeing, is that Joe Burrow's is a left-sided injury. Brock Purdy's is a right. So with that in mind, a right-sided quarterback probably going to be more affected than Burrow.
Okay.
So they're saying just today, Kyle Shanahan said there's some optimism that maybe he'll be back by next week. He would definitely be beating the odds to do so. So most players would miss at least 2 weeks and then come back after that. But the average, again, is about 4.
Okay, one more week of mac and cheese looks like it will be. Also, Green Bay Packers wide receiver Jayden Reed, he broke his collarbone during Thursday Night Football. What is the timetable looking for Jayden Reed, Deepak? And what's the re-injury risk for a broken collarbone?
Yeah, the timetable for Jayden Reed, they announced 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 7 tends to be the most common return range. So that would put him to the first couple of weeks of November. With that in mind, relatively rapid return to full explosiveness and workload. So we wouldn't expect much of a ramp up here. It should be pretty quick, but re-injury risk also not overly concerning. So with Jayden Reed, we'd have optimism, but it will be a while.
Okay, Tara, with that being said, are there any Packers pass catchers you're interested in adding on the waiver wire, whether that's Romeo Doubs or maybe potentially Dontavian Wicks?
Yeah, I think ultimately Wicks does have the higher upside, but we've seen a lot of inconsistency in terms of his reliability and drops being a major issue with him. I would lean towards Romeo Doubs. I know he doesn't have that same ceiling, but I also know that I can put him out there with Reed out and get a solid 10 to 12 fantasy points at a minimum there. So that's my preference.
Okay. And Deepak, before we let you go, what are the chances that we see someone either like Xavier Worthy suit up in week 3 or Isaiah Likely, who's been slowly making his way back from that preseason injury?
Yeah, I think chances are actually pretty good on both. So Xavier Worthy logged 2 limited practices just a week after his dislocated shoulder. He probably would return, and we have seen players return relatively quick within 1 to 2 weeks. The key here is that redislocation risk is pretty high. Based on the rapid progression to return, we think his internal damage in his shoulder is on the lower side. So the re-injury risk in the data is about 50%. Perhaps he's a bit lower than that, but either way, it's still going to be high. And re-injury would probably put him out for the year for surgery. Now, with that in mind, the outlook on Isaiah Likely, he likely dealing with a Jones fracture in his foot. We've seen him on some video moving quite well laterally, which is the key. And he returned to a limited practice right before week 2. So most likely would progress on to return week 3, but usually with a 4-game ramp up.
Okay. All right. Well, Dr. Deepak Chona, you are the man as always. We appreciate not only your analysis today here at Fantasy Pros, but every single week on the Sunday Night Recap Show. Where else can we find your content, man?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and sportsmedanalytics.com. Search my name, search Sportsmed Analytics, or search NFL injuries. Hopefully you'll find us.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you, man. Coming up on the other side, we have the game breakdowns for all the Sunday action right after this quick message about our Fantasy Pros Discord community.
Yeah, we're all passionate about fantasy football, obviously. But sometimes there is a little bit missing. What's missing? A team. But not your fantasy team. No, a team of like-minded, passionate fantasy football fans. And if that is not part of your everyday, Fantasy Pros Discord might be your answer. Chat with other fans, debate strategies, and find leagues to join. Every week, get your questions answered live in our AMA live Discord sessions. Want to know if you should start that sleeper or avoid a risky trade? Our experts, they're here to help. And if you got a question, you might even end up on a podcast. It's not just about advice, though. It's about community, with channels for every aspect of fantasy football, draft advice, waivers, props to dynasty, best ball, and a ton more. You're going to find like-minded fans just like you. So join the best fantasy team. Join Fantasy Pros on Discord at fantasypros.com/chat today. Get your questions answered and connect with fans. Don't just play fantasy football, live it with Fantasy Pros on Discord.
All right. Before we keep it moving, I wanted to shout out some new followers here on the Twitch channel. We got John Free, Rude Dog, Riviera, Brent, Seabone, Nap and Crash, and of course, Clash and Cloggers as well, making an appearance here. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. Van Rod, just free sub with Prime. Thank you for that. And Dark Star also just subscribe. That's the easiest way to support us, is following us, is subscribing. We appreciate that. And you can also subscribe with Prime. Tara, I don't know about you, but my fiance is always ordering so much stuff to the house with Prime. And I'm so thankful I can use Prime as my own little thing here on Twitch with that free sub I get every year.
Yeah, guilty. I've got an order that did I forget to place it? I might have. Yeah, let me do that during one of our breaks because I have some stuff that I need.
Also, this week, guys, we have partnered with Pristine Auction to give away a Ricky Pearsall signed 49ers mini helmet. Whether you're a 49ers fan or whether you just love collecting NFL gear, this is a must-have addition to your shelf. To enter, just leave a comment on any of our Twitch streams at twitch.tv/fantasypros. And as always, Twitch subs, you're going to get a 1.5 times odds boost for just to thank you for supporting the channel. So we really appreciate you. And we will be announcing a winner right here this week, Tuesday, September 16th. So comment now, get a chance to win this Ricky P signed mini helmet. Excited to give that away here in just a couple of days. Let's get to the recaps, though. And so let's start in South Beach, where the Patriots beat the Dolphins 33-27. The last 5 early season matchups of this rivalry, they had gone under 45 points. I know that because I bet the under in this game. Did not come through, but points, they were scored this time in a hurry. Drake May, currently the quarterback 4 on the week, scored over 26 fantasy points, 19 for 23, 2 touchdowns through the air. Both of those scores in the first half, 10 for 31 on the ground, and a rushing score as well. Still, none of the pass catchers really delivered here except Kayshon Boutte. He caught that one target for 16 yards and a touchdown. But I think the real deal here, Tara, for fantasy purposes with the Patriots is the running backs, right? Ramondre Stevenson, 21.2 PPR points on the day, 11 for 54 on the ground, 5 for 88 through the air as well. And then TreVeyon Henderson, the guy that everyone was spending up for in drafts, 4th, 5th round draft capital in most redrafts. Just 3 carries for him, 10 yards, 2 receptions for 30 yards. Also saw Antonio Gibson involved as well, 6 touches. So are we starting any of these Patriots skill players moving forward? What's our confidence level, Tara?
We have a low confidence level here. It's frustrating. I mean, shout out to Josh McDaniels for being exactly who we've known him to be forever. This is what he likes. This is the Patriots backfield. He likes the committee, and the benefit that we at least thought heading into the season was that we would know, hey, this is a committee where Ramondre Stevenson will be getting that early down work. Then we'll have TreVeyon Henderson getting a little bit of work on the ground, but mainly, playing that supposed James White role and getting that pass volume. And it's not turning out that way, unfortunately. We've got the problem is that Ramondre Stevenson is a very adequate or more than adequate pass catcher there in a 3-down back. It's a problem. It is a problem. And the moment I feel like you trust Ramondre Stevenson and say, okay, all right, if he's the lead back, let's go ahead and put him in there. It'll flip. And all of a sudden we'll have TreVeyon Henderson. So it's an untrustworthy. These guys are low end flex options because it's not them. It's Josh McDaniels. We cannot trust him.
No, we really can't. Jim Irsay couldn't trust him, to come over to the Colts a couple of years ago, took too long of a dump in the bathroom. We all remember that story. But at the same time, with these Patriots players, if you need to throw out Boutte or Diggs in that flex spot, I'm with you. I think you can. And same with Henderson and Stevenson. I don't want to do it, but I would still be buying low on Henderson. I think if I'm in a position where I'm 2-0 in my league or I'm 1-1 and really like what I'm seeing from my starters and have the availability to sell high on another player, I do like that. Also, I just wanted to say, I said it Thursday with the primer episode with Debro. Hunter Henry, he remains the toxic X-Man. You keep going back to him, thinks he's going to do good things, then he burns you after a big performance every single year, Tara. When are we going to finally get this straight, man?
Yeah, it's painful there. I rose him up in the rankings, I didn't push him into like super trustworthy tight end one, but fine streaming option, right? And that volume was unbelievable. But I guess I can kind of be fair there because technically speaking, he got more volume than most of the receivers. So maybe we can look on the bright side there.
Mookie's just signed or subbed with Prime, as well as Jackal as well. Thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate your support here on Fantasy Pros Twitch channel. Dolphins pass catchers in this game, they got back on track as well. Tyreek Hill, 6 for 109, 7 targets. Finally had that big game, big performance we were looking for after a really, really down week 1. Could have also had probably even another big catch. Tua missed him on a deep out. Also had Jalen Waddle. He caught 5 of 6 targets, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Tara, are we back to trusting these guys as, mid to low end wide receiver 2s, the wide receiver 3 that we drafted Jalen Waddle as during the draft season?
Yeah, I think so. And I think sometimes it might be a little matchup dependent as well. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they are incentivized. I think week 1 was a big reality check of what it looks like when you're disoriented and disconnected as a team and everybody's not 100% in it. And they realized that, hey, we got to go out there and actually produce on offense. So yeah, we're back to a trust level on them. I waffle back and forth on Waddle just because volume can be a little bit inconsistent for him in particular. But overall, yeah, they're going to have to throw. The defense is bad. That's the clear indication here. Week 1 against Indianapolis was not an anomaly. That defense in Miami is bad. So they are going to have to push volume.
Yeah, I agree. And quick shout out to Javon Achane as well. I mean, this was a guy who was really a first-round pick all draft season, then slowly crept down into that, round 2 conversation once that calf injury in camp started flaring up here. 11 for 30 on the ground, but 8 for 92 through the air and a touchdown. Is Achane back in that top 6 running back conversation for you?
He is. Yeah. If that receiving volume is going to be there on a regular basis, and I think it is, he is an electric back and he will make the most of whatever he gets. We've never been, during the offseason, we had Tyreek Hill making those comments about, put Jalen right in at the goal line. And I kind of chuckled at that because we've never been in on HM because of goal line carries. That was never the appeal. It's not that he was so amazing on the ground. It was that he is just such an electric playmaker and can thrive off of those receptions. So he's back up there for me.
Thank you to some new followers we had just trickle in as well. Mad Science Gaming, North Shore, Beef Street, Jerma, New by Jam, Hamlet. We got John Free in there, Rue Dog, A Riviera, Brent. Thank you guys all so much. We appreciate that. I think many people, including myself, we were panicking a little bit after week 1 about the Detroit Lions. Turns out that maybe it was just your Green Bay Packers that are an absolute wagon on defense. The Lions, they beat down on the Bears 52-21. The Lions totaled over 500 yards on offense, averaged 8.8 yards per play in this contest as well. Pretty much all their skill players and Jared Goff, who had 5 passing touchdowns, really delivered for fantasy managers in this one. I mean, great day for Gibbs, 12 for 94 on the ground, added a touchdown. Monty found the end zone once again, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, I got to wear a little bit of egg here, Tara, because I was a little bit down on the Sun God coming into this season just because I was worried about Ben Johnson. I was worried that, hey, maybe the game scripts won't be there as much as they were last year. And, Jameson Williams, of course, got his 2 for 108 and 1. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, we can say, man, 9 for 115 and 3 touchdowns. Any takeaways here for just an absolutely awesome day for the Lions?
I mean, yeah, Amon-Ra is just so unreal. The consistency there and the ability to thrive off of the volume is just incredible for him. Big takeaway for me is that the running backs, I think they're exactly what we thought they were going to be. We're seeing good work on the ground. We are seeing, Gibbs be able to be utilized in the red zone on the ground. So that's a plus. We still have a little bit of David Montgomery to give us that low end RB2 upside with his goal line touches as well. So overall, this was good to see. The interesting thing there is because I know people want Isaac Tesla to be something. On any other team, he could be a wide receiver too. Jameson he's got that role on lock. He showcased exactly why he's got that role on lock there. And so Tesla to me is just kind of somebody, if there's an injury that happens, absolutely run to waivers, but not somebody that you want to be investing in right now.
Yeah, I mean, great catch for him once again. This guy is so good with contested catches, but as we know from like earlier in George Pickens' career, that doesn't always translate into fantasy points, especially in a loaded wide receiver core like this. And, you know, JMO, you mentioned him, only 4 targets, but he made the most of them. So good day for anyone who manages any Lions players in their fantasy lineups. And for the Bears, Caleb Williams continued to be serviceable, 17 fantasy points, 207 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. But really, again, just continue to use those legs a bit here more in year number 2, 5 for 27 rushing. Swift got fed 15 touches, delivered 13.9 fantasy points with them. But still, I think the key for me with Chicago, this was the rise of Rome game, right? Rome Odunze, 7 for 128, 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. He outscored DJ Moore now in back-to-back weeks. Is it now Rome over Moore for you, Tera, who has yet to reach double-digit fantasy points? Seems a little bit out of sync with Caleb Williams early on.
Yeah, it is. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna do a video where I'm talking to Ryan, and I'm definitely gonna talk about the Chicago offense and 5 moves to make this week, because you got to do something there. Rome is the guy, and I think we kind of all felt that way, which is interesting because the ADP didn't show it. I feel like when we were all talking, we were all like, Rome Odunze, JSN track. It makes sense. Yep. 2nd-year breakout. You take over. And he is clearly ascended and is just dominating. And that connection with Caleb is incredible. DJ Moore it's tough because when we look at DJ Moore, he has been so consistent no matter what situation, no matter what quarterback, no matter what defunct offense. But man, he's definitely taken a backseat. And it makes sense why in the offseason we were hearing all these rumors of, we're going to try and get him involved in the run game and this and that, because they were figuring out how to continue to get him to touch the ball, because Rome Odunze was going to dominate.
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll definitely still be some better days for DJ Moore. I don't think you should panic. And at least like we know what the floor is, right? You know, you're looking around 7, 8, 9 fantasy points. So it's not going to kill you. But yeah, like in my draft rankings, I had Rome right next to DJ Moore, wide receiver 24, wide receiver 25. So felt good to be a little bit high on Rome. I have him on a bunch of teams and kind of bought the dip low in Dynasty as well. So good day if you manage Rome Odunze. I think he's a set it and forget it wide receiver 2, at least as far as moving forward here. And are we dropping Colston Loveland here, the talented rookie out of Michigan, blanked this week in the fantasy column, just 2 for 12 in his debut?
Yeah, and I feel like we should have seen this one coming. The problem is when you look at the offense for Ben Johnson, and you look at last year, why Sam Laporta took that dip in production, it was because when there are 2 very strong wide receiver options, those are the first clear go-to looks. It was Amon-Ra St. Brown and it was Jameson Williams. Now here it is Rome Odunze and it is DJ Moore, and Colston Loveland is left out in the cold. And he's left out in the cold even more because Cole Kmet is not going away. Unless for some reason some other team needs a tight end and there's a trade opportunity or something. I don't think that's going to happen. Colston Loveland, unfortunately, just can't have consistent volume in this offense.
Yeah, I hate to say I told you so, but everyone who had Colston Loveland ranked above Tyler Warren for either redraft or dynasty, I told you so. Too Cool Gaming, Pentil, America, and It's Jay, as well as Dusty Van City, all just followed the channel here at twitch.tv/Fantasy Bros. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday evening as we go into the Sunday night game here. Let's move to Baltimore, Tera, where the Ravens, they were laying the most points on the slate to anyone. They were favored by 11.5, but obviously wasn't enough. They beat the Browns 41, I believe 41-17 here. 4 passing touchdowns for Lamar Jackson. Those were to the likes of Nuke. We had Devontae Walker, Tylan Wallace getting involved as well. Pretty bad game for Derrick Henry, just 11 for 23 on the ground. But Zay Flowers continued to do his thing, 7 receptions, 75 yards on 11 targets. Unfortunately, Mark Andrews also kind of continued to do what we've come to expect from him too. Just 1 catch, 2 yards on 3 targets. Can we expect this same late season run fueled by touchdowns from Andrews this season that we saw last year after a slow start, Tera?
I think so, and I've been holding on to it. The offense is good, and they have so many options and so many ways to get it done. It's not surprising that there are occasions where Mark Andrews disappears. It's just frustrating from a fantasy perspective because we have to keep trotting him out there until those better days come. But after this week, and with the amount of streaming options that we have that are showing, the higher upside or even more stability, right? It does make you wonder how far you're going to move him down in rankings. That I'm mildly concerned there for him. We're not at drop territory just because we know that there can be that immediate turnaround to where he is producing consistent top 5 numbers, but you're getting into the point where you're starting to question yourself.
Well, I just think like now we're at the point with Mark Andrews where you're kind of relying more on like falling into the end zone or it's not going to be a great week, right? Like if I have Juwan Johnson out there, if Dallas Goedert can get healthy, I mean, heck, I'd even probably throw Jonnu Smith out there as getting 4 to 5 targets a game instead of him right now. But I do agree you need to hold him because he will come back. He's Mark Andrews. He's not going to stay dead forever. I also want to talk about Zay Flowers a little bit here because to me, he's entering high-end wide receiver territory for me. Like, I feel like he's kind of playing this Rashee Rice role a bit where he's getting a bunch of manufactured touches behind the line of scrimmage. Then he's also getting a ton of high-value deep targets. I mean, Lamar missed him right out of bounds, maybe 4 to 5 times on the sideline. Or it could have even been a bigger day. So I'm all the way in on Zay Flowers. I'm holding him because I know I could probably get a lot for him. Would you sell high or are you buying into this production in his 3rd year coming out of Boston College?
I'm buying into it. I mean, you can sell high. It's not a loss here because I think perception is pretty strong on him to where if you need something at another position, you can get good value out of it. But when you look at his progression, just year over year, game over game, he just continues to thrive. And I think it's the real deal here. And, I almost it's not even like a, sell high. I almost feel like you can still buy in on him at decent value here. Because this was a game where, touchdowns went the other way to other receivers who weren't massively involved from a volume perspective, but they just happened to get those looks in the end zone there. So I think there's even still a possibility to go out and acquire Zay Flowers, really.
We also have to talk about the Browns because what an interesting day for their fantasy relevant players. Starting with the backfield, the snaps went like this. We had Jerome Ford take 35 snaps, Dylan Sampson relegated to 18, and Quinshon Judkins 19. It was all Judkins earlier, though. He had 10 for 61 on the ground. Really, a lot of that came on a late game breakout run. Some of that was against Baltimore's backup, so I'm not going to read too much into that, but Tera, someone who went out and bought into this Dylan Sampson hype thinking, okay, maybe since Quinshon Judkins' first padded practice was Friday, they'll ease him into a bit. It'll still be Sampson, who was top 10 in the touches last week in the NFL for the running back position. Not the case at all. I mean, he did miss a pass block early. It led to a Joe Flacco sack. I think the coaching staff was pretty upset, but I mean, he had 3 points until garbage time when he fell into the end zone on a reception. So what is your takeaway here first with the Cleveland backfield?
Yeah, I was, pro grabbing Sampson because of the fact that he and Quinshon Judkins can play so well off of each other. It was interesting because we did see Judkins get 3 targets, caught all of them, not a bunch of yardage, but hey, to see him be trusted as a pass catcher is good from that perspective. So I would still kind of hold because the problem is that it's difficult to trust anything from a clear direction from Cleveland. It feels like they're trying to experiment constantly because they know that ultimately this is not a team that is going to the playoffs anytime soon. And they're playing games trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. So consistency on a week-to-week basis, probably not so good there. But Judkins ultimately is the one that you want. Holding Sampson for some continued receiving value in PPR, I think is a strong move.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like either the Browns are just out of their minds and they're like, hey, let's just run Jerome Ford out after being severely underwhelming in week 1, or this is like, hey, maybe, Tank Bigsby got moved for a 5th round pick. Can we maybe see if we can have a big day from Jerome Ford and move him off of that? So if Jerome Ford doesn't get moved and this is a 3-headed backfield moving forward, it's going to be tough to start either one of them. I mean, it's a desperation RB2, Phil, is pretty much what I feel like they are. And the pass catchers, I feel similar, right? Like 4 for 51 for Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman off the tip ball, saved his day, 2 for 22 and 1. Jeudy had 8 targets. We had Cedric Tillman with 7. They feel like flex guys to me. And then I still feel confident in either one of the Cleveland tight ends, whoever you want to go with. Harold Fannin Jr., 5 for 48 on 5 targets, and David Njoku, 4 for 40. They feel like low-end tight end ones and flex plays for the receivers. Any disagreement from you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, when we look at Cleveland historically under Kevin Stefanski, they like to utilize two tight end sets. We're seeing very little relevance from any other wide receivers. They seem very focused in on that target share going directly to Judy and to Cedric Tillman. And then the tight ends are getting a fairly equal look at the same time. So it does make sense when you're looking at a weekly basis. I trust both of them. Now, it does make you move Njoku back a little bit to where he's no longer in that, 6 to 8 range, but a very start-worthy streamable option on a weekly basis. Yeah, this was good to see from Fannin, because we did have a little bit of concern that it would get into like that Isaiah Likely territory where you're looking at him and he has that massive week and then disappears. So it's good to see that Fannin is going to stick around for us.
Yeah, I agree, man. I've always loved Harold Fanning Jr. after maybe the most dominant college season we ever saw from a tight end at Bowling Green. I love Lil Maction and actually got to meet his family out in Canton this year. So great kid and hoping for the best from him. Shout out to Jafflo, Hekel, Matter, Derek, Trix, and Saffron, all for just following the channel. We appreciate you guys. The New York Giants, meanwhile, they were on the brink of beating the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World for the first time since I was a freshman in college, 2016, baby. But they fell short, losing 40-37 in overtime. Russell Wilson, new career high. Couldn't believe when I heard that stat, 450 yards for the former Super Bowl MVP. Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, they benefited in a big way here. Neighbors, 9 for 167, 2 touchdowns, including a late game bomb, 13 targets for him. Wan'Dale Robinson, 10 targets for him, 8 for 142 and 1. Great to see Wan'Dale really kind of, flourishing a little bit in an offense where he can get some higher ADOT, because that's always been the thing. He's kind of been the guy who he could catch 8 passes, but he might get you 45 yards. That was great. We also saw Cam Skattebo take command of this backfield, outrush Tyrone Tracy 11-5. Skattebo had 11 carries, 45 yards, and a touchdown, plus added 2 receptions for 14 yards on 3 targets. Tracy did kind of salvage his day a little bit, 4 for 36 through the air on 3 targets. Tera, where are you ranking these Giants skill players week in and week out moving forward?
This does not strike me as a floor game as much as it might be a little bit close to the ceiling there. Dallas's defense, it's a problem, unfortunately, especially the run defense. So I'm not shocked that they Skattebo had an uptick in volume here and succeeded with it. And I don't know if this is still a team that I feel super comfortable with, because the Giants, to their credit, I mean, man, they put up the volume there with Russ today, but they're still going to be trailing. They've got a terrible schedule. They'll be playing from behind quite frequently there. So no, these guys are still, they're RB3s to me at best. That's where we're heading.
Yeah, they're desperation plays. Like, they feel like in a very similar tier as the Cleveland running backs, right? Like, I do like Skattebo having 35 snaps to Tracy's 26, Devin Singletary 4, so he's getting phased out as we kind of expected him to. So love seeing that. Skattebo, a great pass blocker too, and not a bad receiver either, despite kind of the larger, thicker build. So I think he continues to have upside here. I like him as a stash moving forward. And if people are still not bought in, I think you can buy low. Meanwhile, big day for the Dallas skill players. Javonte Williams, he continued to deliver 25 fantasy points for him. 18 for 97 and a touchdown on the ground, 6 receptions for 33 yards. The pass catchers, great day for CeeDee Lamb, 9 for 112 on 11 targets. Jake Ferguson, 9 for 78 on 12 targets. And George Pickens, 9 targets for him as well, 5 for 68 and 1. Any notes for Dallas, Tera, or is this kind of just like you said, like I kind of expect this almost week in and week out with how bad that defense is playing consistently?
Yeah, I expect it. And the problem is, and I guess that, defense made a big difference in that. It didn't start off looking like it was going to be heading in a very positive direction there. Overall, as the game progressed, things got better in terms of volume, but I've still got some concerns there. But at the end of the day, it's CeeDee Lamb. And George Pickens is a solid wide receiver too. Javonte really is the big one there for me. It's his backfield. I know that fantasy managers want to believe in the emergence of Jaden Blue if he can get on the field, but Javonte has looked solid, man. Well-rounded, 3 down back there. I don't see him relinquishing that job. He looks like he is finally back to being himself.
Yeah, we saw Deepak actually post on socials earlier today that he is expecting big things the rest of the year for Javonte from a health perspective, because now we are a couple years removed from that torn ACL, right? I mean, we saw the hurdle.
Yep.
We're seeing a little bit more of that explosiveness that we wanted to see the last few years in Denver. So if you drafted Javonte Williams in the 8th, 9th, 10th round, congratulations. I think you have, a really solid RB2 rest of the way for you. So great on there. Let's keep it moving here with Jake Browning, who he did his best Joe Burrow impression after Burrow left that game. He led the Bengals to a 31-27 victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Browning in this one, 241 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, also 3 interceptions, but he did get his stud receivers involved. Jamar Chase, 16 targets, 14 receptions, 165 and 1. If Chase ever has a bad week 1 again, just start betting his overs in week 2. I think that's a safe play. T. Higgins, 3 for 56 and 1 on 8 targets. So subpar day for Chase Brown. You kind of mentioned you might be a little bit worried about him, 8.5 PPR points, but I still probably brighter days ahead. I think Jacksonville, though, is really where we want to spend some time here, Tara, because Tugboat Tootin, I think he's arrived, 8 for 42 on the ground, 2 for 32 through the air as well, and a passing or receiving touchdown. And that didn't stop Travis Etienne from also having a big day himself, 14 for 71 on the ground, 2 receptions, 18 yards, and a score as well. So, Tara, I want to get your opinion on both this backfield and the pass catchers, because certainly a lot changed in the dynamics with Travis Hunter playing more defense. Hunter only saw 6 targets, 3 receptions, 22 yards, and BTJ, another down performance for him too, 4 for 49.
Yeah. And it's weird because the volume is there. He and Trevor are just not connecting. And some of that is not only Trevor's fault. Brian Thomas is, I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird start for him.
12 targets, though, so you love the volume at least.
Yeah, it's amazing. It'll come around. It'll come around for them to get on the same page and get comfortable with each other. The backfield is interesting. I will say this is that we do need to not get too hyped, because we do have to remember this was against Cincinnati.
So last words.
But it was good to see. It was good to see, because ultimately in Liam Combs' offense, we know that if 2 backs are good, they can both do good. Rashad White could have played well off of Bucky Irving. He just wasn't as good of a back, but Bashal Tootin looks solid, man. So I can see this panning out very well.
Yeah, I think Tootin is a continued stash here. I don't think I want to throw him out yet, just because only 18 snaps in this game compared to Etienne's 47. LaQuint Allen out of Syracuse, he also had 11. So we need that to be probably at least closer to 25, 30 snaps, I think, before you want to roll out Tootin on the Reggie. But still a great hold right now, a stash if you have him. And, shout out LaQuint Allen. That guy does not get enough love, man. Yeah. He won me a lot of money last year on a couple Syracuse bets. So I appreciate him. Travis Hunter, can you start him right now, you think, Tara? Just because I feel like with him being out there more on defense, he was just a little bit less involved, kind of left the door open for my guy Parker Washington, #WeAre, 5 for 76 for him. And Diami Brown also had an awesome one-handed catch, and then also fell in the end zone too, 5 for 57 and 1. So feels a little bit messy there if you are trying to start Hunter.
Yeah, and Hunter's usage is not exactly, even when he is on the field, is it something that would yield to massive fantasy production. So it's a low-end flex option for me. 9 times out of 10, I'm telling you, you can find somebody else that's more reliable.
Yeah, 42 snaps for Hunter. Diami Brown had 57. So he's still running above Parker Washington, but it feels like in 2 wide receiver sets, we are seeing a lot of Diami Brown, who not a bad player, man. I mean, Diami Brown was like another guy I was trying to cash in on late last season during that stretch for the Commanders. Let's move to the Music City, where the Titans, they fell to 0-2. As the Rams, they came in and went out 33-19. Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, both check in with adequate days, 9.2 points for Pollard and 8.7 for Ridley, respectively. The only other player, though, who hit double-digit fantasy points for the Titans, Alec Ayomanor, who caught 4 of 6 targets for 56 yards and a touchdown. I said it last week on the IBT podcast that I really believe that Alec, coming out of Stanford, was highly underdrafted, and he had the production, 7 targets in week 1. I thought he would follow it up, and glad to see him fall in the end zone. For the Rams, meanwhile, Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, they turn in wide receiver one day, 6 for 106 and 1 for Adams, 8 for 91 on 9 targets for Puka. Plus, he had a 45-yard touchdown run. Any fantasy takeaways from either side of the ball for Titans and Rams, Tara?
Yeah, big takeaway for me is that don't overlook the value of what Pollard is doing. It's not coming through on a fantasy
Right.
perspective because of the lack of touchdowns there. But as Cam Ward continues to progress and as they get better matchups, mind you, these are two terrible matchups to start off the season.
Yes, we knew
We're going to
that.
get
Yeah.
goal line opportunities, and Pollard's volume has been excellent.
Yeah, and Alec Manor, if he's out there right now, I think he might be a good ad.
Yeah,
And don't you
for
can
sure.
make sure you're not missing out on snagging any potential difference makers like him using our waiver central tool at fantasypros.com/myplaybook or on the Fantasy Pros app to instantly view suggestions on who you should add or drop. It's one of the many tools we have over here at Fantasy Pros. So make sure you're going over there, fantasypros.com/waiver central to get invested with that tool and many of our other great ones as well. Let's get to the Steel City, where the Seattle Seahawks, they came into Acrisure Stadium. They beat the Steelers 31-17. The Steelers defense, man, I mean, it is absolutely garbage right now. They allowed the Seahawks 395 total yards, 6.2 yards per play. What are we doing, Mike Tomlin, man? Ken Walker capitalized 105 yards and a touchdown on the ground, as did Jackson Smith-Njigba, Cooper Kupp, Torrey Horton, and A.J. Barner, all turning in good days. Love what we saw from JSN, man. Like, he's someone I said it before the season with how much target volume he's going to get. He should be a wide receiver one each and every week. But great days also from Cooper Kupp, Torrey Horton, and A.J. Barner finding the end zone. Any love for Kupp or Horton or Barner?
So Cup, yes. It was good to see that he actually got volume, was able to do something. It was good to see visually that he can still do it.
Yeah.
I do still want to tell you to keep your eye on Torrey Horton. You don't have to go out there and make a massive investment into him. Just keep your eye out there. If you've got a deeper bench, maybe do a little stash there, just because we did see that age regression on Cup last year. Horton is proving that he is clearly the guy who would ascend if something were to happen to Cooper Kupp and get that strong volume and actually be able to do something with it. So keep your eye on that one.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And like Cooper Kupp, when he catches the ball now, he kind of looks like a running back. Like he just does not look as fluid as he did a couple years ago. And I get it, but yeah, Torrey Horton, he's going to be the one that you're going to want to keep an eye on. 26 snaps for him today. So if Cooper Kupp were to go down, I bet he would probably, slot into more of that flanker role, maybe play some power slot there as well. For the Steelers, not much to take away from this. DK Metcalf, he got that revenge touchdown on his former team. He saved his day for 11 PPR points. I think Jaylen Warren, though, like he's probably the guy here I think we have to have at the running back position. Saw a team high 36 snaps and capitalized. And, I really banged on Artie Smith and Mike Tomlin and company for running out Kenneth Gainwell as much as they did last week. But Caleb Johnson, another sub 1 point day for fantasy purposes, also allowed a touchdown, failed to field a kickoff. I mean, he's only doing one thing now. He's fielding kickoffs there, and he can't even do that. A real lapse of judgment there for the rookie really cost the Steelers that game. Do you think the talented rookie out of Iowa that we probably spent 6th to 8th round draft capital is droppable?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you're in a deeper league, you hold on to it just because we know that he's talented. But unfortunately, we've got the evidence here with Mike Tomlin. Look back to last year with Roman Wilson. Like when Mike Tomlin doesn't feel like you are putting forth what you need to be putting forth,
right,
he's not going to spare you as a rookie. So unfortunately, I feel like that kind of kickoff there might be the final nail in the coffin there of, unfortunately, this just might not be his year.
Yeah, it might be a sit in and forget it season if you have him in Dynasty and hope for better days ahead. Let's go ahead. Let's round out the early slate with the Bills beating down the Jets 30-10. Josh Allen, he was in and out of the lineup with what appeared to be a broken nose. I mean, such a tough guy. He gets treated on the sideline, goes right back in. He's a gamer. And that plus this game strip kind of caused for a pretty quiet day from all the pass catchers. James Cook, though, he delivered 132 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, 21 carries. Any concerns about the likes of Keon Coleman or Shakir moving forward? You just think, hey, they ran away with this one. They didn't really need him down the stretch.
No, I wouldn't be concerned. And I kind of warn people, do expect volume to come down significantly. Last week was an outlier week. You will not see that from Josh Allen more than likely, period. Again, but this was well below. They'll bounce back. This was just one of those games where there just wasn't a lot of pass volume. And you have to be able to predict when those games are going to happen. And the Jets do profile as a matchup where that can happen. James Cook is so strong. You can just lean on him all you need to.
Shout out to our friends Jafflo, Heckle Maker, Derek, Trick, Saffron, Dawn, and B, Pat, and Durando, who all just followed us. Thank you guys so much for that. We appreciate it. And wanted to remind you, one other way you can get invested with us over here at Fantasy Pros is to join our Fantasy Pros community, chat with other fans, and get access to exclusive AMAs that actually wind up on our podcast feed. Our schedule looks like this moving forward. We have Worm and Fitz at 5 Eastern time on the first Tuesday of every month. And then Boggs and Fitz, they're back to talk Dynasty on the third Tuesday of every month. Plus Welsh and Erickson, they're live at Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So come get your questions answered and be on the show at fantasypros.com/chat. I'm seeing a ton of questions coming in for you. We won't have time to get to all those today, but one of the best ways to make sure those are getting answered is go over to the Discord. You can either DM one of our analysts, or you can just come be a part of the show and ask them live. It's a great opportunity for you to kind of round out this game here, Tara. No Jets players crack double-digit fantasy points. Even when Fields returns, like, how much are we trusting them moving forward? Because it's been two sides of the spectrum here. A great day against the Steelers in week one, which kind of proved to be a pretty subpar defense so far, and just an absolutely stinker here from pretty much everyone involved against the Bills, who we don't really know what their defense is yet.
I'm not panicking too much. I did expect more on the ground from the run game here. But at the end of the day, I do think that this is a stronger pass defense than it kind of showed. The score last week, it was a whole lot of running that contributed that. So wasn't expecting too much in terms of pass volume here from Justin Fields. So I'm not panicking over this. I'm also not panicking over Breece Hall. It was good to see he at least still dominated the touches compared to Braylon Allen. So he's the RB1. Volume still Garrett Wilson. There is nobody else, unfortunately. So our guys are our guys, right? It was just a bad week. Don't like super panic on them.
Yep, I'm in agreement with you. Let's move to the afternoon slate here, where the Arizona Cardinals 27-22 against the Carolina Panthers. Really liked what we saw out of the Cardinals in this one. Like, it wasn't a crazy big volume type of day, only 293 yards, but it was efficient, right? I mean, Kyler Murray looked really dynamic. Again, Call of Duty hasn't come out, so the guy's slinging it around the yard right now. 17 for 25, 220 yards and a touchdown and a pick. James Conner, 11 for 34 on the ground and a touchdown. Trey Benson, didn't see as much from him as we had maybe expected on the ground, but still 4 for 30 in the passing game. Marvin Harrison, though, kind of a dud, 2 for 27. Trey McBride delivered, though, 6 for 78. So what are we kind of making here of the Arizona offense in general? Because it's like, to me, Kyler Murray's a low-end quarterback one. James Conner, you're probably starting every week at RB2. And then McBride, you're firing up. And then if you got it, you're playing Marv at the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, but I don't feel great about it each and every week.
I will say I don't think that Carolina is the pass matchup that we think they are. Their defense is a layup. That is for sure. It's a layup. But through the air, their secondary is their strength. If they've got one strength,
they got JC Horn.
Yeah. So they're strong. They paid. They got that. So I'm fine with it. I like seeing efficient Kyler Murray. That's cool. Yeah. Is it fun from a fantasy perspective? No, but it makes us feel good about the longevity of production for him throughout the entire season there. So not a big panic over here. This was a difficult matchup through the air. I don't like what I saw out of James Conner. Again, this was a soft matchup against the run.
Yeah.
I should have seen more there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he got the anytime TD ticket. I know our guy Joey P was pretty high on that this last week, and that was one of his touchdown calls. So he did salvage his day, but was expecting a bit more from him as well. For the Panthers in this one, it feels like right now you can only trust Chuba Hubbard, who, again, wasn't efficient on the ground, 10 for 38, but he has become just a really nice pass catcher as he's continued to develop here coming out of Oklahoma State, 5 for 39 and 1 through the air yet again. And Tedero McMillan, he arrived in full force today, 10 targets. He took them for 6 for 100 yards. So I think those guys are sit it and forget it. We don't have any questions about T-Mac or about Chuba, but I think the question now becomes, what about TreVeyon Sanders? Really talented guy. He was the tight end 2 in many people's rankings coming out of Texas in 2024. 9 targets for him, 754 on the day. Finally starting to not use Tommy Tremble as much, which I've been screaming for 5 years. I mean, Tommy Tremble, the most mid guy in the league. So we have Jatavion here. We also have Hunter Renfrow, 748 and 2 on 9 targets. I mean, Xavier Legette, just forget it. 8 targets, one catch, -2 yards. So terrible there. But I think what complicates things is we have Jalen Coker, the talented second-year wide receiver out of Holy Cross, who's on IR right now. Yeah. So is Renfrow, Sanders, Legette, any of these guys worth a stash, or is it just like, throw him in as a streamer, but be prepared to drop him when Coker comes back.
Yeah, it's exclusively streaming, and the Hunter Renfrow makes sense because that role was exclusively the vacated role of Coker, that was the vacated role of Adam
Right.
Thielen. So it does make sense there. It does. I love Sanders too. I want to see this become a thing. Just we'll treat it with caution because we have so many streaming options. But yeah, let's hope that he can become a consistent streaming option for us.
Yeah, it feels like, when you get your pass down, hand-me-downs from like your older brother and then the middle child and then the younger kid gets them. That's what it feels like Hunter Renfro's getting. But shout out to him, man. I mean, it's great to see him back on the field. He was a rock star back in those early 2020 years. So great to see him back on the floor. Let's get to the Indianapolis Colts, who win after a missed field goal. We had a call that there was an illegal formation pushing on the center from the Broncos. It pushed the Colts forward to get the win 29-28. Really nice day again from Daniel Jones. I think Debro tweeted out halfway through this one, like, Daniel Jones looks legit. 473 yards as an offense for the Colts as a whole versus the Broncos, just 324. And as far as diving into those Colts numbers a little bit more, again, I'll put some egg on my face. I was way too low on JT coming into this season. I just wasn't thinking this offense or this team was going to be that good, honestly. So I didn't want, just a volume plotter out there in JT, but 25 for 165 on the ground. Also add 2 for 50 and 1 through the air. Likely going to finish as one of the top running backs on the week. Tyler Warren, 4 for 79. Cash that really nice. I think his over prop this week for receiving yards was like 40 yards. So we hit that on the first play, 7 targets for him. Okay day for Michael Pittman, 4 for 40. Josh Downs back involved, 6 for 51. So we know we're starting Warren. We know we're starting JT with high level of confidence moving forward. But what do we do with these receivers? Because Alex Pierce still very much involved. The talented guy out of Cincinnati, 5 targets for him. Downs had 8 targets. And Michael Pittman Jr. 5. Is it kind of like a roulette wheel at this point? You kind of don't know where you're going to get, or do you think we'll find out more as the year progresses on these guys?
I look to week 1. Now, granted, that was a bad defensive matchup, but I look to week 1 as more of the accurate target share distribution, just because this was, again, now I think Patrick Surtain got like momentarily hurt, but came back into the game there. But this is a good defense. I always feel like you can't take away anything from receivers against the Denver defense, just because it's always possible. Like Alex Pierce emerging as a better option, that kind of makes sense, right? I'm sure that we were getting the top option locked down there in Pittman. So no, I'm so good on Pittman. I think he's a fine flex option. It was good to see Downs bounce back after that low utilization. But again, just I really continued shout out to Daniel Jones and the way I felt myself. Like I was rooting after they got that second chance at the field goal. I don't know if I'm rooting as a troll or if I'm like legitimately in here, but man, I was like, come on, Dan, come on. Like I'm in. This is fun. He feels like our long lost Manning cousin here. I'm into it. This is fun.
Yeah, hey, maybe you have to get yourself a little Daniel Jones jersey. What do you think, Tera?
I'm going to, yeah. I've got one Jonathan Taylor. I did do a little bit of investment to Jonathan Taylor, so that works out. He's throwing the ball check down to Jonathan Taylor.
He is.
He can do no wrong in my eyes from that perspective.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was missing from JT's game last season, and I thought if A-Rich was back under center, we wouldn't see. So, yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he's a legit RB1. I think the rest of the way, as long as nothing changes, and it is Daniel Jones under center moving forward. And can we even start like streaming Daniel Jones? I think found the end zone again with his legs and 316 yards through the air. This is the best Danny Dimes we've seen probably outside of that one. I think it was the 2022 season when he took the Giants on that ride into the divisional round of the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trusting it. This was the barometer here. I was worried that we would have to rely on the legs, but he came through decently on the air as well. Yeah, not even decently. He came through.
Yeah, and it's a great defense too, right? Yeah. Like one of the best defenses in the league, I think we would all say. So great days for the Colts here. Hope everyone in the Loud House enjoyed that one. For the Broncos, meanwhile, I mean, RJ Harvey, you can forget him, sit him on your bench right now because we know how talented this guy is. But J.K. Dobbins handled the load, 14 for 76 and 1 touchdown. And I'm kicking myself, Tera, because so I had Dallas Goedert in a league. He was going on IR. I threw him on this week. I was like, okay, I can either pick up Troy Franklin or I can pick up the Chiefs defense and stash him for next week against the Giants. Well, Troy Franklin, 9 targets, 8 for 89 and 1. We know this is the guy. He's a stepbrother of Bo Nix. They played together at Oregon. talented guy, fell in the draft a little bit to day 3 in 2024, but really, really great day for him. Marvin Mims found the end zone as well. And Courtland Sutton just 1 for 6 and 4 targets. Is this just, you think, one off for Courtland Sutton? Are you worried about him? And at the same time, are you all the way in on Troy Franklin? But at the same time, what do we do? Because everyone's in on Marvin Mims Jr. before the season started too. So feels like a mixed bag here for the Denver Broncos pass catchers.
Yeah, we got to be cautious here because again, and even Pat Bryant got a little play there too. So I do want to pick up Troy Franklin, waiver wire claim for sure. But I do still think that Courtland Sutton is the wide receiver 1 there. Again, it's just one of those days where maybe that coverage was just a little bit tougher on him. I'd have to dig into it, but there is likely a reason as to why there was such an aggressive. Maybe the matchup was just more advantageous that Franklin had.
Let's go ahead. Let's round out the program here, Tara, with the Philadelphia Eagles getting it done in Arrowhead Stadium, 20-17 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, this game was a bit of a slogfest for fantasy, right? And I think we kind of expected this Jalen Carter back to make that Eagles defense what they should have been in week 1. The Chiefs and Eagles, they've played together, I think 5 years in a row now. So these are teams that, despite not being interconference rivals or anything like that, they know each other, right? And it kind of, hurt all the fantasy production, really. Like Jalen Hurts, he fell into the end zone, but didn't have much production, just 100 yards through the air. Saquon Barkley, he got it done, 22 for 88 and 1 on the ground. Also added 2 receptions there, so you liked what you saw there. Devonta Smith in and out of the lineup here. He hurt his tailbone, but he did come back in and had a big grab, though. 453. A.J. Brown, 5 for 27. What are we doing with these Eagles pass catchers, Tara? I don't want to downgrade them because we know the upside they have, especially if Dallas Goedert continues to make time. That's usually when Smith pulls it together. But below double-digit PPR points 2 weeks in a row for him, you can't sell them low. But are there brighter days coming? Are there?
Oh God, there has to be. This was a weird one because this should have been a matchup where we saw increased pass volume. But then again, we're talking about, you mentioned these two teams. They know each other very well. If Kansas City knows that Philadelphia beat them like a drum through the air, then let's adjust and make sure that doesn't happen again and attack them differently defensively. So I can give it a little bit of a pass here that this was just a post Super Bowl slugfest here. It is concerned. The good news is that, hey, AJ Brown had 8 targets. That's a massive improvement from week 1 there. So better days ahead. But man, it's so tough with Saquon he's just so dominant that they don't have to rely on the pass.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And they just brought Tank Bigsby in too. So he wasn't involved today, but maybe he gets more involved down the stretch and maybe that continues to limit him. So I think if we're redrafting today, like AJ Brown isn't the second rounder or late first round or early second rounder we are drafting him for. I don't think Devonta Smith would probably, slide much further than the 6th or 7th round, but they're definitely downgraded a little bit. And, I think it'll take some time for this new offensive coordinator to, get him to the level where Kellen Moore was late last year. They do have the Rams coming up next week and then the Bucs. So I'd expect that September 28th game against the Bucs to maybe see, full throttle AJ Brown and Devonta Smith as long as they're healthy. For the Chiefs, we got to talk about this, man, because Pat Mahomes did not look good in this one. 16 for 29, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but he's using his legs, right? 7 for 66 and 1 on the ground. So that was great. The backfield still a split. Pacheco, nothing going, 10 for 22. Kareem Hunt, nothing going, 8 for 31. So not great there. Neither one of them had a huge role in the receiving game either, just 1 reception. And then Travis Kelce feels like the only guy you can really start 4 for 61, and that's just because he's a tight end. Hollywood Brown really let people down as well, 5 for 30 after I saw a lot of people across the industry calling him their quote start of the week. So any takeaways for the Chiefs here, or is this just hey, the Eagles are a wagon. They ran in the Chiefs. They know each other, and let's continue to start Hollywood and Travis and, pick your poison in the backfield, I guess.
Yeah, Eagles pass defense, it's a juggernaut. It is what it is there. It is difficult. We got to remember that it's Hollywood, but it's Hollywood. So it's not super reliable. He's still a flex option, right? I would expect more volume next week. We're facing the Giants, right? We're going to see more volume to him. You got to watch out on Xavier Worthy and whatnot. But overall, there's just not a ton of good high upside takeaways. There's not anyone in this offense that I'm looking at as more than a flex play at best. And again, that's just, Travis Kelce exists because Travis Kelce exists.
Yeah, and if you want to start Pat Mahomes, you can, and like hopefully he can continue to get it done on the ground like he has the last 2 weeks. But without that, there's a low floor. So just kind of keep that in mind. Before we get out of here, I wanted to shout out a couple people. First, we had Sayaman, who just subbed with Prime. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And also Muscle Hamster just cheered 4 bits with a question. Let's get to that. What should I do about Evan Ingram? Picked up Hunter Henry, and he was disappointing. I put in for Dalton Kincaid. Thoughts? Oh man, like I don't think you can start either one of these guys. Kincaid's not a full-time player. Ingram's doesn't seem like he's at 100%, not really high up in the target pecking order. Are there other guys out there? Like, would you prefer someone like Kincaid? Would you prefer going back to the Jacksonville realm and seeing if Brenton Strange or someone like that can do it? Like what do we do here for our friend Muscle Hamster, Tera?
Yeah, it depends on your league and what's available, but I will say that I noticed a lot of people did not pick up Juwan Johnson. That's a real option there.
Yep.
You got to lean into that. I don't trust Ingram, and I didn't trust him heading into the season, unfortunately, because it ain't him. It's Sean Payton, and we haven't in Denver thus far. We haven't had reliability from a tight end perspective from him. So yeah, you gotta hit the waivers. There's guys out there. Strange is out there. Juwan's out there. I'm sorry. It's really a rough situation.
Can you buy low on, I guess you're not buying low. I guess you're buying high, but even like a Harold Fannin Jr., I think would be an upgrade at this point. Like if you need someone out there who is going to get you close to double digit PPR points, I mean, maybe that's someone you can look into. If Brock Bowers is out, maybe Michael Mayer takes a bigger role. Like those are kind of where you're at, and just got to keep streaming matchups, man. Hang in there, Muscle Hamster. We're pulling for you, man. And last question here from our friend Edge. Do I trade Marv for JCM? So I am low on Marv. I've been low on Marv all draft season. I don't love the usage we get with Drew Petzig at offensive coordinator with Marv. It's a lot of high ADOT stuff and not really using any schemed up production stuff for Marvin Harrison. But JCM feels a bit low, even though Austin Eckler's down for the year with the torn Achilles. JCM wasn't very good on Thursday. Tera, would you do this trade if you have Marv?
I would not. I would aim higher. He's more valuable than that for sure. And I like JCM for sure. You got to remember, man, they operate this backfield as a committee. So you can't put it past them to continue to involve other backs, McNichols, Rodriguez, and Jaden Daniels is a running back on the ground as well. So yeah, I would look for a better option.
Okay. All right. Well, Tera, great stuff tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone who joined us as well live right here on twitch.tv/fantasypros. If you guys are curious what else we have coming your way this week on Twitch, we have a loaded schedule. It starts with Out of Bounds with Joe, Welsh, and Bogman. They'll be back on Mondays at 2 Eastern time to recap all the action. We also have Welsh and Bogman. They're hanging with you live playing Madden 2026 at 12 p.m. Eastern time each Tuesday. We also have fantasy football Q&As coming to you live with myself and Debro Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern time, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then also Tera, myself, or rotated analyst will be back on Sunday at noon Eastern time. And of course, same time, same bad channel, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time for the recap each and every Sunday. Please give us a follow, ask questions right here on Twitch. Thank you so much again for hanging out with us. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. More Twitch subscribers, more help over here will help us continue to bring content for you through the rest of the season. That will do it for us on this episode of the Fantasy Pros Fantasy Football Podcast. Let us know your biggest fantasy football winners and losers of week 2 down in the comments below. Also, make sure you're smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you're new. For Tera Roberts, I'm Seth Woolcock. Take care, y'all. Better days ahead, hopefully, for you next week with Clemson, Tera. Better days ahead.
Oh, I don't think so, man. And I'm such a, I'm ready for change, right? So I'm kind of, as we started the game and it was looking embarrassing, I thought, wow, let's